If we were to set aside the traditional image of a family-oriented Volkswagen at this stage, and consider purchasing a fun and engaging small car with a budget of around 200,000 yuan, what would be your choice? This is a question we posed on our platform, and we received a plethora of interesting responses from our audience. The variety of answers was quite diverse, covering a wide range of preferences and styles. After careful consideration and selection, we have narrowed down the choices to 3 models that received the most attention. These 3 vehicles are the iCAR V23, the electric Mini Cooper, and the Smart Type 1. Each of these cars has its own unique characteristics and appeal. They represent different approaches to design and functionality, catering to various tastes and preferences in the compact car market. The iCAR V23 offers a novel off-road aesthetic, while the Mini Cooper boasts its iconic and classic design. The Smart Type 1, on the other hand, embodies the essence of a compact Mercedes-Benz. All 3 cars are compact models, measuring under 4.5 meters, yet each possesses distinct features and qualities that set them apart. This variety ensures that there is something for everyone in this segment of the market. Today, we've invited our very interesting friend, Duru, to join us. We're curious to see which of these 3 cars Duru prefers. Personally, I find myself leaning more towards the Mini, given its compact size. In terms of design, I tend to favor styles that are a bit more playful and engaging. The Mini, with its classic appeal, is quite appealing, but I'm drawn to the unique design of the V23. All 3 cars are relatively small and quite nimble to drive. As for the Smart Type 1, considering you recently reviewed the Smart Type 5, does that mean you don't like the Type 1? I actually really like the Smart Type 5, as I prefer the boxy design. The Smart Type 1, however, feels a bit too rounded for my taste, perhaps more suited for women. I think many women would find it appealing. The design of the Smart Type 1 might be a bit too simple for me. In comparison, I find myself more drawn to the designs of the other 2 cars. The V23, with its boxy shape, feels more innovative and daring. I believe this car would definitely turn heads on the road. The V23 has a slightly larger presence and a unique off-road style, which I think would catch the attention of many. It's a very cool and stylish vehicle. I'm more inclined towards designs that are eye-catching and innovative. However, I'm still in a wait-and-see mode, as I haven't had the chance to properly drive and experience it yet. But let's not forget our main goal for today. We're going to take these 3 cars on a trip to Nanao Island to enjoy the sea. All 3 cars are fully charged, and we've set the driving mode to comfort or economy, with the highest level of energy recovery. The air conditioning is set to 23 degrees with 2 fan speeds, and we've reset the trip odometer. We're now ready to start our journey. Now, all 3 cars are fully charged and ready to go. We've set the driving mode to either comfort or economy, ensuring the highest level of energy recovery. The air conditioning is set to 23 degrees with a 2-speed fan, and we've reset the trip odometer. We're now ready to embark on our journey. Our goal is to test the real-world range and performance of these 3 electric vehicles. We're currently in the Smart Type 1. This is my first time driving the Type 1. I had a good experience with the Type 5, particularly its design and suspension tuning. However, the Smart Type 1 feels somewhat ordinary, like a typical small electric vehicle. It's probably the best car in the Smart lineup outside of the Spirit series. Perhaps because it's so conventional, many people have purchased it as a family car. The Smart models are getting larger and moving towards the mainstream market. From my personal perspective, focusing on fun and engagement, I'd give the Smart 1 a score of 6 out of 10. There are many similar small cars on the market now, often with more competitive pricing. The initial advantages of the Smart 1 have diminished. The Smart Type 1 is a decent car, but it lacks the unique charm and excitement that some of its competitors offer. It's a solid choice, but it doesn't stand out as much as it once did. As for the Mini, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. The overall design is quite good, and I really like the Mini's appearance. However, the Smart has a larger battery. I noticed that its CLTC range is 560 kilometers. If I didn't mention it, you might not know that the Smart Type 1 has the longest overall dimensions and wheelbase of the 3 cars. It's not surprising that it can accommodate a larger battery. The official battery capacity is 66 kilograms, with a range of 560 kilometers. It definitely has the longest range among the 3 cars. However, the base model has a 49 kWh battery with an official range of 400 kilometers. It's quite similar to the base model of the Mini. It seems that Mini and Smart are old rivals. They are very similar in many aspects. The competition between these two brands is quite fierce. Okay, we've arrived at the charging service area. We've driven about 80 kilometers, we're going to switch drivers and move to the Mini. The Smart @1 has used 14.4 kW of battery. The average speed was 50 km due to traffic, so we've been driving for a while. Now, we'll switch to the Mini, and see which of the three cars will run out of battery first. This will be an interesting test of real-world range. We're all set and ready to go. We're now in the Mini Cooper. My first impression of this car came from a short video by Yu Kiao, who described the Mini Cooper as having a unique, relaxed vibe that's characteristic of Beijing. This is why I like the Mini. I'm drawn to its appearance. Whenever I see someone driving a Mini, I can't help but take a second look. It's a very eye-catching car. The biggest drawback of this car is that it's not very spacious. The limited space also puts some pressure on the battery capacity. Due to its size, the battery is only 50 kWh, which is the smallest among the three cars. It's really only suitable for commuting. For longer trips, like our usual commutes between Guangzhou and Shenzhen, I have to consider whether the battery will be sufficient. The range is a bit of a concern. However, the car's small size is a great advantage. For people like me who have trouble parking, this car is perfect. You can easily find a parking spot and squeeze it in. That's a great benefit. It's true that most Mini drivers are women. I especially like the interior design, particularly the circular instrument panel in the center console. It perfectly matches the car's exterior design. The overall design is very fun and engaging. It doesn't feel like a boring family car. It's not like driving a big, dull vehicle. I don't like that. The Mini's circular design is definitely a standout feature compared to other cars. The screen is also a classic Mini design. However, this type of screen has a learning curve for adaptation and overall use. I think a more traditional, flat screen would be easier to use. It wouldn't be as challenging to get used to. You said you like designs that are more stylish, right? Don't worry, you'll see what I mean when we switch to the V23. We've now driven over 200 kilometers. The current energy consumption is 14.7 kWh per 100 kilometers. For a small car, this is acceptable. We were driving at about 114 kWh on the highway. It's completely fine. We have about 204 kilometers of range left with an energy consumption of 4.7 kWh. We currently have 142 kilometers of range left, with 40% battery remaining. It's unlikely that we'll reach our destination. We might run out of battery. The other cars have about 300 kilometers of range left. We'll see what happens. It's likely that the Mini will run out of battery first. Then we'll see how the Smart and V23 perform. This will be a good test of their real-world range and efficiency. We've now driven over 200 kilometers, and the current energy consumption is 14.7. For a small car, this is acceptable. We were driving at about 114 km on the highway. It's completely fine. We have about 204 kilometers of range left, with an energy consumption of 4.7. We currently have 142 kilometers of range left, with 40% battery remaining. It's unlikely that we'll reach our destination. We might run out of battery. The other cars have about 300 kilometers of range left. We'll see what happens. It's likely that the Mini will run out of battery first. Then we'll see how the Smart and V23 perform. Oh, our display is now showing 0. Both the range and the percentage are 0. We've been circling the service area for about a dozen laps. The mileage has decreased. Now, pressing the accelerator has no effect. We're just coasting. We've finally driven 328.6 kilometers, almost 329 kilometers. The final energy consumption is 14.6 kWh per 100 kilometers. I'll go get a truck to take it to the charging station. We'll charge it up. We've just finished preparing at the service area. Since the Mini has already run out of battery, the Smart and I will continue driving. We can see that the current energy consumption is 19.5% of the battery. This is because it's a boxy, four-wheel drive vehicle, so the consumption is a bit high. The remaining range is 320 kilometers, with 69 kilometers of battery left, or 4%. We'll see which one, the Smart or the V23, runs out of battery first. Let me show you. It's completely dark outside now. It's 6:38 p.m. The battery has 9% remaining. We'll keep driving until it runs out of battery. This will be a good test of their real-world range. We just received a message that the Smart has run out of battery. It traveled 355.5 kilometers, which is a bit surprising. It's rated for 560 kilometers of CLC range, which is quite long. The final energy consumption was 7.16 kWh per 100 kilometers. We'll continue driving the V23 until it runs out of battery and see how far it can go. This will give us a good comparison of their real-world performance. Okay, we're now on the Shantou overpass. The car can reach a speed of 90 km/h. I've fully pressed the accelerator, and the speed is around 95 km/h. The remaining battery is only 2%. The remaining range is 11 kilometers. The nearest charging station is about 20 kilometers away. We'll see where this car finally runs out of battery. We're looking forward to seeing the final results of the V23. This will be a good test of its real-world range. We've driven a total of 374.6 kilometers with an energy consumption of 18.6 kWh per 100 kilometers. This car has now traveled the farthest among the three. We'll see how far it can ultimately go. It's very accurate. We just passed an intersection, and it's now showing 0 battery. The display shows 100. We'll see how far it can go. We're pushing the limits of the V23 to see its maximum range. Okay, now it's at 385 kilometers, with an energy consumption of 18.4 kWh per 100 kilometers. But we can still continue to move forward. We're still going. We'll see how much further it can go. The power is now limited. You can see that pressing the accelerator has no effect. We're just coasting. We'll pull over to the side of the road and turn on the hazard lights. We're pushing the V23 to its absolute limit. We've traveled a total of 405.6 kilometers. After reaching 0 battery, we continued for about 20 kilometers. The energy consumption is 18 kWh per 100 kilometers. This is still a good energy consumption rate. We've reached the end of the road. When the display showed 0, we had traveled 385.8 kilometers. Now it's 405.6 kilometers, meaning we traveled almost 19.8 kilometers after the display showed 0. This is quite impressive. The hidden range is really impressive. Usually, when we test the range after the display shows 0, we can only travel about 10 to 15 kilometers. This car traveled almost 20 kilometers, which is very impressive. We just discovered something interesting. From the point where the display showed 0 to Nanao Island, it's about 19 kilometers. If we weren't worried about getting stranded on the Nanao Bridge, we could have driven directly to our destination. We would have been able to reach Nanao Island without any issues. So, the V23 has completed its mission. It can indeed travel from Shenzhen to Nanao without recharging. We mostly drove on the highway, and after exiting Shantou, we drove on some city roads and overpasses. Overall, it can travel from Shenzhen to Nanao. The total range is about 420 kilometers. This is a great result for the V23.